Hello, welcome again to Year 11 parents. I'm giving you a message to follow up on the original one about the roadmap for the year. I will reiterate some points that I made with regard to that and assessment points in particular. And then I really want to share some study strategies and some study skills that we're going to be sharing with your children, and that will be useful for you in the coming weeks. So, just a reminder, a few of the issues that we have within school that we're obviously dealing with regards to our response to COVID-19, and just a reminder, the majority of Year 11s are doing this fantastically well, and we're really underway in understanding the reasons for keeping our distance at times, keeping our hands clean and keeping our hands away from others. And obviously we're doing this to care for everybody in our community, and obviously beyond that when they come home as well. And the guidance of hands, face, space is very much in keeping with what we're trying to achieve within school as well. And you will know that the last couple of weeks have been very positive with regard to that, and it's great having the students back in. In terms of the roadmap, I mean, it stays pretty similar to what I said last time. It's looking more likely that GCSEs are going to be examined this year. The dates for our planning remain the same. Students are realising that there are going to become some assessments coming up, and that's what I want to make the focus of this talk. We have some information that we'll share with you with regards to the post-16 options, about why they're doing the reason why we're doing the exams, and why we do GCSEs and the BTEC is the stepping stone onto post-16 education, training or employment. And I will share this document with you with regard to who's doing what and when across the city and beyond that over the next couple of months. But it's very much a focus now that we start helping students and supporting them with their next steps. Within our lessons, we share this book amongst all our staff. It's called Making Every Lesson Count, and it's never been more important for us to make every lesson count for our students, whether we're heading towards the GCSEs that we're expecting and sitting exams. If the very least that they're doing with their study is putting their full effort and their full concentration into every single lesson they're in school, then that's going to go a massive way to supporting their success in their studies. And as of the 25th of September, I believe students will be sitting GCSE exams. Art at the moment is the only exemption from that. There isn't an exam in art, it's purely coursework. But as for everything else, we will be gearing up towards GCSE and our assessments over the next couple of months, and our exam practice cycles will reflect the need to prepare students for that. In terms of what you can do to support your child and what we found out from the best, these are 5 areas that we know supports children's aspirations and their success in their GCSEs. But I also just wanted to use one of our former students, who's in year 13 now, but just this phrase: I'm so glad that I now know all the hard work paid off. I knew I'd put the work in, but I still didn't expect to do this well. So when we started to unpick this with some of our sixth form students and students who've been successful at whichever level is relevant to them, whether they were the students who are achieving the level 3s and 4s, and that was at the top end of their ability, or the students achieving 8s and 9s, level 8s and 9s, or distinctions in their BTECs. These are the 5 common features that come out. Every student we spoke to always said that they were spending time on doing the right things, which is the topics or the questions that they didn't quite understand or they hadn't quite got a grasp of. They were the topics, or they hadn't quite revised and learnt, that they kept on going over. Things that they didn't know were the things that they had to learn the most, had to overlearn them in order to get on top of those. In terms of parental support they received, their parents were checking that they were actually doing some learning, either through mini tests or discussing a topic with them, rather than just watching students do the work, just doing questions, just answering homework, just doing work. They were actually starting to link topics together in that way, and I'll share some strategies for that. They were developing good habits about revisiting work that they'd learned. They'd studied something in a class, they were going back to it, making a revision note, going back to it a couple of weeks later to make sure they still understood and could still remember it, and going then back a month after that and checking that and revisiting. And again, I'm going to share a strategy for that. We all have high expectations and high aspirations for our students, and we're really encouraging the best out of them. Sometimes that might come across as being a really positive bit of feedback. Sometimes it might be, come on, buck your ideas up, let's get going. But we really, truly do want the best for your children. We all do well if your children do well. So, we will certainly be setting high expectations and aspirations for them. And again, when we're talking to our sixth form students, that is the thing that made a real big difference for them. Okay, and as I mentioned last week, it's the post-16 options that you are working towards, not just the GCSE grade. And again, a conversation around that, helping our students to understand that no matter what their grades, there will be options available. But if they really want the option that they want, then they need to understand what they have to attain. Okay, so effective learning strategies. Here's Bart. He's got some lines. I must start some revision. I must start some revision. I must start some revision. And this is a really daunting prospect, just as it was for us when we were at school. And obviously we know that revision is very unique to each individual, but there are some really rich research gone into how to revise, how to learn, that I'd like to share with you, that we can really start encouraging our students to be more effective in their revision strategy. Writing something out 12 times probably isn't the most effective strategy, I'll be fair to say. And certainly reading something 12 times definitely isn't the right way to go. It's a little bit like, and I think the best way, my best analogy is to start really thinking about your language. Come on, do some revision, and then if we're nagging our students, it's time to change tack. Okay, 10% of their year 11 has already gone. So we have 90% of the year left. So the time does evaporate quite quickly for students this time. And I think really something that helps with the language is starting to form this idea that you're just creating a new habit. You're not starting a revision program. You're not going to revise but you're just starting a new habit, and you're changing maybe some of your old habits. So if your routine was to come in and do half an hour's homework, watch some TV, socialise, go onto your phone, that was an old habit, then we're going to start introducing a new habit. So it might be get in, do a bit of homework, have some social time on your phone, then you're going to do an extra half an hour of work. And it really can start that simple. And this process is something that was used, it's been used by many famous people, but one in particular I remember from when I was in my 20s was the Jerry Seinfeld show. And he spent many years as a failing comedian. And what he started to do was to write a bit of comedy every day, and he called it Streaks, the Steinfeld strategy. Every day he just wrote something. Sometimes it wasn't very good, but he just got himself into that habit each day. And then, of course, when he got his break and got his show, because he was already in that habit and he was being successful with it, his confidence came, and obviously the success built all that. And that is a strategy. It's all about deliberately practicing a skill until it becomes habitual and effective. And revision is one of these skills. Doing a little bit each day really does help us. And many of your children will understand this terminology of streaks because they use it on their Instagram accounts where they're having to forward messages on each day. So it's really familiar language to them, and they really understand how it works. And a little bit differently than creating maybe a revision calendar that can be missed, and we can't, they beat themselves up and start getting anxious if they miss a math session or miss an RE session. Using streaks can really help with this. So this would be an example of a calendar for a streak. You'll notice there isn't any set schedule for subjects on here. All this young person has done is when they have done some revision, or whether it be 30 minutes, an hour a day, whatever the target they've set themselves, they've just crossed it off and highlighted it green. So they streaked on Monday, they did a bit on Tuesday, they did a bit on Wednesday. Unfortunately, on the Thursday, they didn't do it, so the streak broke. The next time, they've been far more successful, and got up to maybe 10 days of a streak. And this is where we come in as parents, where we can maybe be setting some kind of rewards around streaks and around habits. Show me the 10 days that you've been revising for. We'll give you the 11th day off, but if you do that, here's some money for Churchill Square. You can go to socialise with your friends. You can attend that event that you wanted to go to. However we help and support our students with that, it's important to reward the work that they're doing. And this becomes more about a habit and forming a positive habit than badgering them to go and revise. So just a flip bit of psychology, but that might help you start to get students into better habits if you need to do that. If they're already doing 30 minutes, fantastic. I've seen so many students with flashcards around and revision material. Well, let's start pushing it now to 45. Let's start going an hour. I think, towards exam time, you can't just cram it all in at the end. We've got to space this revision out. And streaks is a brilliant way of doing that. So it's becoming part of their daily routine. It's not just about doing past papers and questions and looking at revision guides. It's really thinking hard around content that, like I say, maybe they don't understand fully yet, or maybe haven't quite understood. And maybe that's linking it to different areas of different curriculums. And what the research suggests to us, and this brilliant book, which I can highly recommend, which is called The Science of Learning, really goes into some very effective strategies about how to learn. And the main finding, I think, to impress on our children is, no matter who's done the study, wherever it is in the world, if you just leave it to the last minute and you cram, no matter how good your memory is, it's 25% less effective than doing a little each day or doing some streaks each day. And it doesn't matter what age group they've done that, whether it's an adult cohort, university cohort, GCSE age, or even down to primary age, the effect is still the same. We learn a lot better by doing a little bit each day and topping it up and topping it up. Alongside that strategy, and to help students, because obviously if you've got a subject that you don't know so well, you might get put off with it. And I think back to my maths experience. I actually like maths, but fractions, algebra, ratio, and angles, I would definitely take the first 3 topics over the angles topic if I had to do some work. So breaking them up into one big topic and working through that and revising that is not anywhere near as effective as just doing a small dose of each one. So in my half an hour session, rather than just spending half an hour doing fractions question, fraction question, fraction question, fraction question, is far more effective to start interleaving topics together in each of those sessions, and doing a couple of fractions questions interspersed with a couple of algebra, a couple of ratio, a couple of angles questions, for example. This also works if you were to do subjects. So you may have maths, English, RE, science, French, German, history, geography, and doing a little bit of each one, because that's making your brain a little bit more flexible to be able to switch from one to the other and help you to think hard on it, okay? And having certain questions that you're going to answer about lots of different topics certainly helps our brains to be a little bit more flexible about how we learn and how we regurgitate the information, which is what the GCSEs are about. It's a massive mental test. So again, alongside the streaks, how we're setting up that time period is also something we can support our children with, in terms of doing a small bits of topics and interleaving them with different topics. In terms of learning, my face is in the way here. In terms of the 3 stages of learning, there are these 3 stages, and I think most of our students would definitely be around this stage where they're starting to organise their thoughts about revision. They're starting to organise the information that they have, whether that's a textbook, their notebook, whether that's information from their websites, Google Classroom. They're starting to have some form of notes. In order to help and organise them, there's some useful strategies around memory maps, flashcards, writing out notes, having notebooks, and maybe highlighting their notes. But merely, this isn't the learning process, that's a reading process. And I think it's important to impress that onto them. If they're coming and showing you beautifully manicured, highlighted notes, that's been a fantastic bit of organisation, but that has been a reading task, not really a learning or rehearsing task. Really, to start the learning process, it is important that we are answering questions, we're quizzing ourselves, we are using material in a way that we can explain it back to somebody, because this is the stuff that we rehearse, and this is information that we get into that short-term memory. And of course, for our exams in May, June, or July potentially, we need to get from the short-term memory, off the page, from the short-term memory, and lock it into our long-term memory. And this is why the length of time and distributing it over a length of time is so important, because we can get to a point where we keep returning to topics, which is helping us to learn them, but we have to do that less frequently because they're starting to lock into our long-term memory. So just reading on its own or organising the notes on its own has to be done, but it's not going to get it into our long-term memory. We need to keep revisiting those topics, and hence doing a bit each day allows us to do that for the amount of information that students have to learn. For some examples of reading, there are several here. Round the clock revision. This is one from history, where they've taken 12 different topics. Color coding is good. Using pictures is also very effective strategies. Key points, underlining, highlighting. These can be written out, and then the next time you do it, you may put less information on the clock, and you may just be left with the titles by the end, as that information you keep revisiting is going into your head. From science, diagrams annotated, again, different colours for different areas. Maybe you'll highlight stuff that you know well in green, so you don't have to look at that. Keep going back to it. Mind maps, pictures and notes, knowledge organisers we use quite effectively in English. They're all really effective strategies for organising your notes, and each of us will have a way of doing that. Some people will prefer a clock because it's more organised. Some people like the mind map and scattery diagram. Some people love the knowledge organisers. I personally prefer revision cards and flashcards with questions on the front and the back. But whatever suits you, that's what we've got to support our students with. And we can take something that has a massive information on it, and really what we're trying to do over learning it and distributing the practice we spend learning it, to get it down to something very, very simple that might not mean anything to anybody else, but means a hell of a lot to us. It's locked in our learn-to memory, and we can unlock it and regurgitate it in front of an exam question. In terms of the rehearsal, my colleague has put together a very effective way of using your flashcards, and I'm going to let her explain that to you and give myself a bit of a break.
Hi, I'm Mrs. Neal. I am Key Stage 4 leader for English, and today I'm going to be talking to you about how to make effective flashcards. So the first thing that you'll need is what's called a knowledge organiser. So in English, they look like this, and what they have on them is information that you need to revise for one book that you have in the exam. It may be a topic or a theme, but this one, for example, is A Christmas Carol. We've also got ones that look like this. This is an Inspector Calls. So as you can see, it's got all of the characters, important dates, key quotes. This is the only piece of information that you need for your exam once you have done the lessons in your revision. Some subjects have them blank like this, and then you fill them out with the information that you need for the exam. So for instance, in Spanish, you may decide that you are going to have one knowledge organiser for weather, one knowledge organiser for culture, and just have one knowledge organiser for every topic. In some exams, in some subjects, you might decide to have a knowledge organiser that is about the exam that you're taking. So, for example, in geography, you might do a knowledge organiser just for hurricanes, if you know that that is going to be in one of your exams. So that's the first thing you need, is a knowledge organiser. You can get them from your class teachers. They will have access to them, or they will be able to point you in a direction where you can find them. So that's the first thing you need, is a knowledge organiser. So you've got your knowledge organiser, you've decided on your subject, and you've decided on your topic. So in English, it's very easy because we'll do our topics based on the books that you're studying or the papers that you're going to be doing, for example, language paper 1. So today is just going to be on A Christmas Carol. So you have this piece of information in front of you, you have this knowledge organiser that you've collected or even made yourself with all of the key information. Then what you do is you spend 5 minutes revising it. So you look through, you might even decide to get a highlighter, highlight key points, highlight key ideas, and you have a look, but just for 5 minutes. After those 5 minutes, you just put it away so you can't see it. And then you give yourself up to 10 minutes, and you are going to write on a piece of scrap paper or an A3 paper, whatever you want, everything that you can remember from that knowledge organiser. So now what you've got is a complete sheet of paper with as much as you can remember from the knowledge organiser. So you get them side by side, your notes and the knowledge organiser. And what you do is you compare them and you see where your gaps in knowledge are. This is really important because what you don't want to do is make flashcards of knowledge that you already know. For example, in English, you might not want to write what the plot is on a flashcard because you probably already know it. But you may have got some key quotes from or some key dates, especially in subjects like Spanish or French, where you have to learn a lot of vocabulary. Which types of vocabulary did you not write on your sheet? Those are going to be your gaps in knowledge. So what I would then do, taking a different highlighter, is going through my knowledge organiser, what have I missed? Highlighting the things that I missed off. Didn't say that, I thought I got that wrong, I thought I had it right, that key word I didn't write in. And then what you end up with is a couple of things that are going to form your flashcard. So then, once you've got that, Miss Marsh has nicely provided me with some pre-made flashcards. You can get these yourself or get yourself some paper or card and just cut it up. There's no wrong way of doing this. You are then going to make your flashcards. The most important thing about flashcards is that you don't write too much information. So on one side, you write down what was on the knowledge organiser. For example, what idol has replaced you? A golden one. That is a key quote from Scrooge. You might write that on one side. On the other side, you are then going to write a hint or a tip or an idea about what it is that that says. So then that becomes your revision. If at any point you are unclear about how to take this information and put it on a flashcard, the best thing to do is look on Quizlet, where flashcards are pre-made. So what you can do there is find the ones that best suit your gap in knowledge and create your own flashcards. Now, just making them is revision. So you've already done one piece of revision by making them. So don't think, oh, I'll just use the ones on Quizlet, because that is passive learning. You're just looking at something, whereas writing it is going to get in there even more. Once you then have your pile, and it should be a much smaller pile of your flashcards, because I know that in PE there's lots of information to learn, hopefully that will be significantly reduced if you've done it this way. You can then start revising them with one on one pile, do that one every day. If you get it correct, you put it in pile 2. Then you do this one every other day. If you get it correct, you put it in pile 3, and then that becomes your once a week revision. If you get to the point where you have no cards for revision because you know all of them really well, then collect yourself another knowledge organiser, or even go back to the original, and you can do the whole process again. Because the whole point of doing this knowledge organiser-based flashcards is that you have the best information to revise, not all of the information to revise. If you need any help, come and speak to me, Mrs. Neil, in your department, or Miss Marsh is sure to help as well. Good luck revising!
Okay, thanks to Miss Neil. So this, the revision cards, once you have them, a very effective way of revising is the Leitner model, and I think Miss Neil alluded to that. The Leitner model works on the premise that you have 3 boxes. The first box you know very well. You don't need to revisit that. You don't need to revisit this box that often. You know that information. Every month or so, you'll just top up your knowledge of that. But that is a box that you don't need to know too much of. If you pick a card out and you read it and you have forgotten the information, well, then you use a bit more data. You use it on a bit more of a weekly basis. You go back to it every week just to remember the information that was on that card. If it's secure, you don't need to use it anymore, then it comes back and it can go into the monthly box. If you're reading it weekly or you really are struggling to remember the facts on that card, then it comes into your daily box. And that is the stuff that you don't know so well, the information that don't know so well. We read that more often. And so we're actually taking this huge amount of information and we're just really focusing in on the bits that we need to know, that we haven't got into our long-term memory yet. And as that becomes a little more automatic over practicing, rehearsal, over the interleaving over that time period, then once we have it and we've got it stored in our memory, it goes into the monthly box and the process repeats. And so we're actually filtering down the amount of information we don't know and making it a little bit more easy to deal with. It's worth, again, from the book of The Science of Learning, there are 15 ways to improve our memory. I'm not going to go through them here. You can pause the video and have a look at and go through and have a look at some of them. But I think it is worth, in this year more than ever else, to go through and have a look at these different techniques for improving memory, and also find out what works for your child, and ask them what works to help improve their memory. Is it a picture? Is it a written word? Is it an action? Is it acting something out? Is it discussing a topic? Because that is going to help them more than ever. Okay, the perfect revision session. I'm going to finish here and I'm going to go through this very quickly about a few do's, don'ts, and things that we categorically know aid revision. 30 minutes is enough time for anybody to concentrate, as you will attest to watching this video. You need to take a break then, structure them in, whether that's having a change of room, change of scene, making a drink, just having a complete break and then coming back to it. You have to structure your breaks as much as you structure your sessions. Your revision planner, again, I would use the streaks idea rather than trying to map out a beautiful revision timetable, but that's your choice. I find it much easier if I'm trying to learn something to just keep revisiting a bit each day and tick it off when I've done it rather than crossing it off when I haven't. And again, you can build in some rewards for that. Can you have your phone on? No. It takes 11 minutes for us to refocus from looking at our phone screen. So of course, if you've got your phone next to you, you're trying to revise, you get a message, your brain has taken 11 minutes to process that. So out of your 30-minute session, two messages has knocked out 2/3 of your session. So big, again, it's a change of habit, good habits, putting it away, bad habits, keeping it with you. Can you listen to music? Research suggests some no, some yes. Having music, ambient music around is much better than headphones according to research. Maybe having the same playlist again will help your long-term memory. You'll start to associate different facts with different points in the song, different lyrics. But that's a very individual one for students. Definitely not loud music, and as I say, headphones not always good. Well, we're going to help and support you, range of different ways. We understand different people access their information in different ways. Certainly Twitter, our website, Firefly, Google Classrooms. We are pushing information out on a range of different platforms. The same information is going out on each platform. So however you access your information, we will have it covered within there. And you can contact myself, the Year 11 team, for any support with any of these issues. We know it's important, and we really want to support everybody as much as we can with it. And so just a quick reminder, really, work out the why. It's really positive, really powerful motivator, and hopefully you can help tailor some of your revision sessions now. This video is designed to be used in small chunks for you to go back to and review and revise it. So please do spend some time with that, and I really appreciate any comments you have, any feedback you have with regard to what I've posted for you today. Thanks very much, and all the best.